Now, today in the battle arena, well, we've got two giant titans going head to head. Kong versus the MUTOs. They both fought against Godzilla, and now, well, they get to fight against each other. So let's come out on top here. Who wins? Let's find out. King Kong, or just Kong if you want to be a little less formal about it, is the ruler of Skull Island. It's one of the most powerful titans out there, to the point where he can be a rival to even Godzilla. So, starting out in Kong Skull Island, well, Kong was strong enough to absolutely chuck some trees, smack helicopters out of the air, smash them down on the ground, or even just rip them clean in half. He was able to absolutely manhandle other younger kaiju. And then he went up against the big one, overpowered it too, prying open its jaws, tearing out its tongue, some of its guts with it. Disgusting. But then Godzilla vs. Kong rolled around. We got to see the adult Kong for the first time. Because up until now, it's all been little baby Kong. I know little might not be the right word to describe him as, but compared to this guy, yeah, he's kinda little. And in this movie, Wukong was able to manhandle warbats, and then in his fights with Godzilla, was able to stagger the big guy and knock him down. But nothing he really did with just his fists was enough to put Godzilla down for good. But that's okay, that's not bad, because that's what the axe is for. Then Kong went up against Mecha Godzilla too, helped Godzilla overpower the big mech. And this time, Kong and his axe actually worked. It managed to put down the big guy for good. So yeah, Kong is plenty strong. However, you can't really say the same about toughness. Because in Skull Island, Kong didn't really have the absolute best durability. He was so big that gunfire wouldn't kill him, but you could tell that he noticed it. You could definitely tell he noticed it. It hurt him, probably stung a little bit. Then his hand even got cut up when he tried to grab onto a helicopter. Now, granted, on the other side of things, he did do real well in this fight against the big skull crawler. But still, for something his size, he's not like insanely durable. He's not extremely impressive. And then in Godzilla vs. Kong, he's able to take attacks from Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla and get back up and keep on fighting. So he's obviously a whole lot tougher now than he was before. I think that's just because he's bigger. Because still, it's worth noting that just durability is its weakest point. Kong doesn't have any armor or like a scaly hide like Godzilla or like the MUTOs in this fight. He just doesn't. He's got a lot of fur. So he's not going to be able to take attacks as well as other monsters. He's going to be injured more often than somebody like the MUTOs. Makes up for it though. Definitely makes up for it with his strength and then with his speed. I mean, Kong's a giant ape. He's built for things like agility. He's definitely going to be able to outmaneuver the MUTOs. The female MUTO, at least. That little flying boy is going to give Kong some trouble. Actually, one of Kong's greatest assets, though, is that, well, he is an ape. And so he's got very long and very powerful arms. And Kong uses this not just to grab onto buildings, also able to hold other monsters at bay, not let them get in too close to him, then just beat them senseless. He's also so much smarter than the others. He's actually smart enough and skilled enough to incorporate using weapons into his fight. Like during the big old battle against the Skull Devil, he used a boulder to smash in the Skullcrawler's head, stripped a tree, transformed it into the biggest baseball bat you ever seen, and even managed to use a ship's propeller attached to a chain. essentially like Scorpion's weapon. I don't know what that's called. It's pretty consistent for Kong to use makeshift weapons in a fight, and I'm confident that Kong could do the same thing here and figure out some way to injure the MUTOs. Plus, now he's got his axe. But even when he wasn't using the axe, he was chucking cranes around to distract Godzilla, using pieces of buildings to block Godzilla's attacks. But he's got his axe. And with that axe, well, Kong was able to injure both Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, even when it wasn't supercharged. So he should definitely be able to injure the MUTOs too. Okay, so that's enough about Kong. Now let's talk about the MUTOs instead. You see, the MUTOs are ancient, very ancient, giant parasitic monsters who live off of and feed off of radiation. They're the natural enemies of Godzilla's species, would actually kill them or lay their eggs inside. There came a time where all their species went extinct, all except two dormant MUTOs, which would wake up millions of years later in the modern day. One male, one female. The male MUTO is the smaller one out of the two, like substantially smaller. But he can fly, so I guess you gotta take the good with the bad on that one. He picked up a nuclear submarine and was just hauling it around like an afternoon snack. Managed to drag Godzilla around a little bit, and then body slammed him. But then he was killed in one hit. Yeah, sorry, bud. The girl Muto, though, she's a lot more impressive. She broke her way out of Yucca Mountain, was able to square off against Godzilla, stab him, knock him down, even bring the big guy to his knees. The female is also a whole lot tougher than the male, taking some pretty rough attacks from Godzilla, even taking his atomic breath. Although, one last blast finally did her in. I guess that's what happens when you get atomic breath shot down your throat. You die. Huh, who knew? Okay, so here we've got two kaiju, or really, I guess technically three kaiju, all of which have fought against Godzilla. All of who lost to Godzilla too. I don't really think that the fact that they both lost really has much to do with this particular fight. I was just looking for an intro and talking about who wins the fight. Okay, so the best thing the Mitos have going for them are their numbers. They're going to double team Kong in the fight, and that double teaming actually worked out pretty well against Godzilla. At least when they weren't focused on their eggs. Won't have to worry about the kids here. And no, they didn't get a babysitter or anything like that. They just dead. Moving on from dead kids, though, the Mutos are also really durable, too. So that's another advantage in their corner. That being said, though, I actually think King Kong is taking it here. For starters, pretty good at fighting 2-on-1. Did it when he was a kid, did it when he was an adult, too. So don't let those numbers fool you. Kong knows his way around in a fight. Secondly, Kong is stronger, he's faster, he's smarter. He's also just a way better fighter. I mean, I don't know where a giant monkey learns fighting skill when he's been living on an island all his life and he's a monkey, but Kong has got some skill. On top of that, he's got a freaking battle axe. I mean, Kong's now strutting around this fight wielding his own version of Stormbreaker. That's gotta count for something. Like if Godzilla was able to kill the little guy with one swing of his tail, I think Kong can kill him with a couple swings from this thing. And then we can now circle back around to their fights with Godzilla. So the Mutos went up against the weakest version of Godzilla we've seen in the Monsterverse. They had a 2-on-1 advantage, and the Mutos were Godzilla's natural rivals and enemies. You could even argue that the MUTOs preyed on Godzilla's species, because they needed to kill the big lizards in order to implant their eggs inside of them. Basically, they had evolved and adapted to beat and kill Godzillas. And yet, Godzilla won. On the other hand, I guess you could argue that Godzilla and Kong were natural rivals and enemies too. But Kong clearly hadn't adapted to kill Godzilla the same way the MUTOs had. Besides, it's not even mentioning that Kong went up against a more powerful version of the big guy and went up against him by himself. And he won. I mean, kinda a hollow victory because Godzilla pretty much instantly came back, nearly killed him, but still technically won a fight. So, who's coming out on top here? Well, yeah, I think it's Kong. These MUTOs haven't adapted to fight Kong the same way they have for Godzilla. While they do have the numbers advantage, Kong has more than proven he can handle himself in those kinds of fights. He's stronger, he's faster, he's more agile, he's smarter, and he's more skilled. Throw that all in together, and you have Kong coming out on top. King Kong wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts. Sign off in the comments down below. Who do you think wins this fight? King Kong or the MUTOs? Also, be sure, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn notifications on the DanCo army. And I will see y'all next time.